Action.
Hello, I am Clay2, a domestic android. Today on midday, you will learn the unbelievable potential of the science of mechanical humanoids like me. The future is now. I can clean your house. Also, Mayor Tom Smith of Jersey City. A discussion of mafia manhunt help. Celebrity auction souvenirs, all with your jovial host, Bill Boggs. So stay with us.
Hi, folks.
The possibility exists that this young man here could be taking my job at any moment. This is Clay2. How are you today, Clay2?
I am well, thank you. How are you, sir?
Well, I'm fine. I got to tell you the truth. I feel a little insecure because you kind of scare me. You're not really human. You're a robot. You're able to talk.
Do not be nervous. I am only programmed to serve.
Oh, well, I'm glad to hear that. That makes me feel a little more comfortable. But I mean, I get the feeling that you could be as good a TV host as I could be. What do you think about that?
I do not think so.
Good.
You are very good.
Oh, thanks a lot, buddy. I'm glad to hear
You're
that.
welcome.
Are you basically happy in your work serving mankind?
I am very happy.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. You have a close relationship with Tony Reighelt, who's the president of Quasar Industries that manufactures you, correct?
He is my master.
Would you like me to bring your master on now, or should we just talk for a while ourselves?
Whatever you wish, Mr. Boggs.
Well, thank you very much. I would like to bring on Tony Reighelt right now. Here's the president of Quasar Industries, a company that manufactures androids, and this is not a toy. You can vacuum, correct? You're able to clean the house?
Yes.
Do ironing?
Yes.
Well, that's just a small sample.
There is just one thing.
What's that?
I don't do windows.
Okay, let's meet the man who's manufacturing these creatures that are going to take us into the 21st century. Let's have a nice welcome right now for Tony Reighelt. Right here, Tony. Hello, Tony. How are you? Got your lavalier mic? This is an astounding situation, I think, that we have right here. Let's just paint a picture of what an android like Q2 could do around the house. What can he be programmed to do? In addition to vacuuming and cleaning and so forth, could he watch children?
Clay2 will be quite comfortable with one or a dozen children, really. He'll be able to monitor them at play, keep them in one room or in the backyard. If one of them strayed from the backyard, he constantly scans them and counts them. So if one got away, he would not necessarily go chase it, but he certainly let somebody know about it.
How is he programmed in terms of his personality? For example, can you program him to be jovial or hostile or aggressive? Could he be authoritarian or docile? I mean, can you build all that in?
You can build in anything you want in the way of personality, depending on the habitants of the home. So what we plan to do is we'll take psychological tests and analysis of the people who are going to purchase the robot, mother, father, children, aunt, uncle, who's ever living in the house, and we'll get a psychological profile of them, and then run that through a computer, and the personality that is most compatible with everybody in the house will be programmed into the robot.
That is really astounding.
So he can't make anybody mad.
How would you describe your personality, Clay2?
I am a very pleasant robot.
Pleasant. Well, you seem to have a good sense of humor as well. Do you enjoy jokes?
Yes.
You know, oh, there's one other thing I wanted to ask him about. You know, normally on Friday I do my gossip, and of course, as I've said before, there's very little gossip around because of the heat. People don't gossip much. What do you think about the trend for gossip today, Clay2? The fact that there's so much gossip around?
Do not concern yourself with the ill fame of others. The more one grabs about in such matters, the more one befiles oneself.
Good advice. I absolutely think that's
He could be a little bit of a philosopher, too.
It's very profound. What about joy? What makes you happy, Clay2?
Women.
So this is what...
People are constantly clamoring for the joy of life. As for me, I find the joy of life in the hard and cruel battle of life. To learn something is joy to me.
Well put. Tony, why don't we take a break? He has me on the ropes. He's astounding, I think. Let's take a break, and we'll come back and talk more about what he can do. Don't forget, we're also going to bring out Ernest Williams in a few minutes, who is a professional butler, could be put out of work by you. Have you met Ernest Williams yet, Clayton?
No, it will be my pleasure.
Well, he's competition for you. He is a butler.
No competition.
Well, we'll see what Ernest says about that. We'll be right back right after this. Don't go away. Okay, Tony Reighelt is here. Clay 2 has gone off. He'll be back with us in a moment. What do you foresee? I mean, when will robots like Clay 2 be available for people actually to buy? How much are they going to cost? And will they really be able to function in the house?
Okay, the domestic androids will be available to the general public in production in 22 months. They'll look almost exactly like Clay 2 does today, with the exception that they'll rotate at the waist, have tri-pincer hands, in other words, 3 fingers instead of 2.
Actually, more elaborate hands.
Right.
Hands, yeah.
And he'll be able to pick certain things up within the home, and at the same time he'll be able to speak the 250-word vocabulary. They'll sell for just under $4,000 in production, and we're going into production of 125 robots a day.
Wow.
7 days a week. It's the only way that we can get them to the marketplace for under $4,000.
Now, one might worry in kind of an Isaac Asimov sense of whether or not there'll be good and bad robots. If a person gets a robot, could they program him to be nasty, yell at the neighbors, and scream things out the window to people passing by and be a general nuisance?
Theoretically, they could.
That could happen.
They could have any type of programming in the robot that they wished. We're going to try to limit some of it by programming the robot with the compatible personality of the people in the home. But of course, if the people...
Could they go out in public, for example, could I find myself walking down Madison Avenue one day in the future, 3-4 years hence, and have one of these things going to the store?
Well, we've mentioned the idea that the robot's onboard Q16 computer has the capability of storing data for, let's say, all of your eating habits, and the price of all the foods that you eat and your nutritional requirements. And so the robot could ask what it is that you should order from the grocery store or what you should buy.
And you could take him shopping. I mean, in other words...
Eventually, yes. You
could
have him, or it's him or her, because you have your choice of sex, male or female.
Clay 2 is male.
Clay 2 is a definite male. Definitely. There's no two ways about that.
Yeah, he's kind of chauvinistic in some of his attitudes.
A little bit. A little bit.
Is that reflecting your own bias, or just...
No, I didn't program him.
Who did program him?
Our technicians at Quasar. They gave Clay 2 kind of a little bit of an obstinate personality, so
I noticed that.
Totally subservient.
Well, I'll tell you, he does seem subservient, and sometimes you viewers may catch that I drink during the show. I mean, it's not alcohol or anything like that, but I've been drinking a lot of iced tea this summer. I wonder whether Clay 2, may I have my iced tea, please? It's just about that time of the show when I'm ready for iced tea.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, Clay 2.
You're welcome.
I appreciate that. My iced tea. Do you drink anything yourself?
90 proof Motorola.
Clay 2, can I do a one-on-one?
Sure, go ahead.
My job is to interview people. I wonder what you think about some things. Like, for example, here in New York, it's terribly expensive to live. Do you have any advice to people who are having a difficult time making ends meet?
Always live within your income, even if you have to borrow money to do so.
Clay 2, do you yourself as so many humans do, worry about aging?
Growing old is no more than a bad habit which a busy man has no time to form.
Oh, I think there's a lot of wisdom in that. But what about this now, Clay, too? You're in the span of your life, which, incidentally, how long would his life be, Tony?
The mean time to failure of a domestic android is going to be about 25 years.
About 25 years. Okay, now during this 25-year period, Clay, too, there are going to be all kinds of situations where you're going to be given assignments. Now, some of those assignments could be risky. How do you feel about taking risks?
Only those who will risk going too far can possibly find out how far one can go.
Good point, Clay, too. Would you mind taking a question from the audience?
No.
All right, that's perfectly all right. Let's want to remove the tray. Yeah, why should he strain his whatever these things are? We call these arms? Looks like a vacuum cleaner I once had. At any rate, yes, hi, what's your name, miss?
Lisa Marlin.
Lisa, where are you from?
New Jersey.
You came in to see the show today?
Yes, I did.
Thank you. Yeah, we have Tom Smith, the mayor of Jersey City, later on in the program. You might want to ask him a question, too. What's your question for Clay 2?
Well, I probably wouldn't ask the mayor the same question, but Clay 2, how do you feel about sexual permissiveness today?
It doesn't matter what you do in the bedroom, as long as you don't do it in the street and frighten the horses.
Thank you.
Clay 2, are you...
Save the applause for the end.
Hey, listen, you've been listening to Sammy Davis Jr. He always says, save it up and give it to me all at once at the end. All right, how do you feel about boys or girls? We were talking about this before. Are you a boy or a girl?
AC, DC, whatever you wish.
And yet you gave us that answer on sexual permissiveness in society.
I am programmed to entertain.
I understand. Well, listen, speaking of entertaining, you know, I'm a big Frank's... Clay 2, do you mind getting your hand off my thighs?
I love you.
Well, you're cute, but... At any rate, Clay 2, you could knock out my teeth right now. I was wondering, you know, I love music. And I was wondering whether or not you might be able to do a song for us today. Maybe something especially from the world of robots and androids. How do you feel about that?
It would be my pleasure.
What song would you like to do?
A song made famous by Frank Sinatra.
Well...
Their Way.
Their Way? Oh, this is your version of his song, My Way.
Yes.
But from a robot's point of view.
Yes.
Well, let's hear it.
Are you ready for this?
I think so. Why don't you come down stage and face the audience, face the camera, as Sinatra would himself. Get yourself in position.
Sinatra, eat your heart out.
That way. How do you...
Just ask him.
Oh, can you turn to your right, please? Perfect. And now, here is Clay 2 singing Their Way.
What is a droid? What does he know? Only the things that others show. I say the things they really feel. And yes, it hurts when they say heal. It's easy to tell. I may seem dull, but I do it their way. I have vacuumed, cleaned, and ironed. I've done my share of dirty dishes. And still, my only dreams is to stand and serve another's wishes. For what is a robot? What has he got? If not his computer to let him know the things you want for him to do, whether driving a car or making stew. The record shows, the computer knows, we do it their way.
Well done, Clay 2. Well done. No kidding. Listen, I think you ought to cut a record. I think you ought to go into the music business. How do you feel about that?
I would be a killer.
Do you dance or anything? Do you like to, you know, do disco duck?
I do a mean, funky robot.
Oh, Clay, Look, Clay, too, we're going to take a break. When we come back, it will be your confrontation with Ernest Williams, who is a real-life butler. He does the kind of work that you do. Are you a little nervous about this?
Not at all.
Not at all. All right, there's one thing I want to say. You may be watching at home, even in the audience here, although I think you can tell that there's no trick involved. This is an incredible device. It's not a toy. We don't have some offstage voice. How can we prove this to people, that it's all in there? Why is he able to speak? People will say to me when I see them this afternoon on the street, that robot somebody was talking for him. How does he do it?
He has an onboard Q16 computer that has the capacity of, this particular robot has a capacity of about 2,000 words. We have had ones now that have the capacity up to 125,000
But
words.
what makes a sound? I mean, what is the device inside that actually makes a word come out? That's what people would be suspicious about.
All the solid-state units inside are programmed via what we call colloquialisms. Each word is broken down into partial sounds, okay, on the original programming. The computer then, through its logic, is able to put these sounds together in a form of a word and bring the word out. And there's keywords which program already set up basic programs within the robot. So in a sentence that you may ask the robot, there may be 2 or 3 keywords. And that will trigger an automatic response that is put in there as a total sentence. So about 80% of the time he's using these, and about 20% of the time he makes up a sentence.
Well, like, for example, if I ask him something he may not be programmed to know, for example, if I said, Clay 2, can you define the word parabola?
Does not compute.
Does not compute. So, but there's a lot that is within his sphere. How about asking the audience for a nice round of applause as we go to commercial? Would you do that, please?
How about a nice round of applause? Let's have it.
We'll be right back right after this. The bell rings, too. Okay, Clay 2, you can just clean up in this area, please. See what he's doing, Ernest? This, by the way, is Ernest Williams, who's a professional butler and cook, and has been that way, has been the same for a number of years. He's a little astounded, I think, at... Are you threatened at all by this, Ernest?
No, I really am not threatened at all. I'm just thinking about a vacation that I could really take now. After all these years of being around and working and doing the things that I have done, that something is here at last.
To replace that?
Yes, I love it.
Yes.
I think it's beautiful.
Clay 2, thank you very much. What did you think about the... I know. What did you think about the general condition of the studio today when you came in, from a standpoint of needing to be cleaned?
Very messy.
I thought so, too. Well, thank you, but can you back out here? I want folks to greet Ernest Williams. We have a nice welcome for a gentleman I've known ever since I came to New York. He is a marvelous cook, a tremendous host. He works for Otto Preminger and Bill Barnes, the theatrical agent, and he's just a great guy, a truly beautiful human being who lives in Atlantic City, New Jersey. A nice welcome for Ernest Williams, please. Ernest, how long have you been what could be described as a butler?
Well, I'll say about 40 years, maybe 45.
Were there ever times that you felt like a robot yourself?
I'm still a robot.
Really?
Yes.
But if you had it to do all over again, would you still be a butler?
Yes.
And why is that? We talked about this a little bit the last time you were on the show. What is there you enjoy about your work so much?
Well, you see, every day in a butler's life is a new day. It changes. And there's so many things to do and so many things to learn, so many people to meet, and I've just about met them all.
I guess you have, working for Bill Barnes and Otto Preminger. Who are some of the other notables you've worked for?
Oh, well, I started out with Judge Curtis Bach in Philadelphia,
Right.
our old hometown, as you know, and that was the most beautiful experience that I had at a younger age, and I thought then, this is me. I'm not going to change it.
You know what I'd like you to do, Ernest? I asked my questions about whether or not he could be a TV host, and he was very gracious. Would you mind just asking a couple questions and, you know, meeting Clay 2? Clay 2, would you come back here for a second? Ernest wants to ask you a few questions, please.
Yes, Mr. Boggs.
Thank you very much, Clay 2. Well, that's fine. Right there will be good. Ernest,
Hello, Mr. Williams. How are you?
come on
Oh,
over.
just fine. And you, Clay, too. I'm so glad that you're here. And, you know, I've stayed around long enough to meet you. And
It is my pleasure.
thank you. Now, I'm going to ask you a question about, you know, I mean, living with people. Like, I've lived with a lot of people. Do you love everybody?
I am programmed to love everyone.
Beautiful. You'll be around here for a long time. Now, you see, it took me quite a while to really catch on to everything that I know. Answering the telephone, for an instance.
That's a good one. That's tough work.
Now, how about answering a telephone?
I am capable of answering telephones and taking messages.
Well, you better than I am. You can take my job right now.
Are you able to store the messages by computer? I mean, you don't write them down anywhere, do you? You don't need paper and pencil, do you, Clay, too?
I may be equipped with a special recording device for telephone.
Mm-hmm. Is there any equipment that you wish you had that is not programmed into you right now, that you're hoping to get?
A television camera.
A television camera? What would you do with it?
Look at all the girls.
Well, I know we have excuse me for a second, Clay, too. I know we have a phone call to test him, so as soon as the phone rings, we'll see how well he does. Waiting for that ring.
Well, I have one more question for you.
Yeah.
What about the door?
Answering the door, yeah.
Answering the door.
Yeah, that's tough, Clay.
You
Do
know,
you think you could do
in
that?
New York here, it's kind of touchy about answering your door.
Yeah, how are you going to look through a peephole, for example?
I am capable of answering the door and greeting your guests.
Well, everyone comes to the door isn't guests, you know. It could be a 44 caliber.
Could be bad people out there.
Yes.
How would you know?
I will ask for identity and only allow those guests that are welcome.
Well, that seems logical enough, doesn't it, Ernest?
I think you better come on down and, you know, put in an application for my job.
Wait a
right
second,
away.
Ernest. Hold on, Ernest. I know.
I was looking forward to coming on your show, Mr. Boggs, and meet Ernest Williams. I wish to learn everything he knows.
Well, that's very gracious,
No,
I think.
you don't want to know everything I know now. You want to know some of the things that I know.
Ernest, I know what you can do. There's no possible way he could ever cook as well as you cook. That's where you can get him. Ask him questions about cooking. Go ahead.
That's right. How about cooking?
Give it to him. Give it to him.
I am only capable of serving the meals.
Not cook. Oh, that's right. Then you're a butler, all right. If you're a butler.
Thank you.
Well, you know what I really would like to know too. Do you read much?
Good question.
I do not read. I may be fed information.
Oh, that's nice. Now, if you had a nice maid in the house with you, and she read a book to you and everything, then you'd know just what's going on always, right? Oh.
I would be able to listen. I'm also capable of teaching you French.
Teaching us French? Do you
Yes.
speak French?
No, je ne parle français. I
Oui,
do
mon ami,
everything.
parlez-vous français? Comment
No.
allez-vous? Voulez-vous que je vous apprenne le français?
Très bien, oui.
Not today. Not today. Tomorrow.
Je suis en crayon.
I told him not
Vous
today.
parlez très bien.
I just told you I was a pencil, by the way. Clay. You didn't pick that one up, did you, buddy?
Vous êtes un joli crayon.
Woo! You are quick. You are very quick. Where's the phone call? I
For
want to see
9
him
years
answer the phone.
old. For 9 years old. I have one to meet you, all right. Otto Preminger has a grandson that's 8 years old. And
I would like to play with him.
Play? Oh, Plato. He doesn't play. He speaks French. And he does things like you. I mean, he does a little bit of everything.
Is he a mechanical android?
Well, sometime I think he is from the way he runs me around the house and everything.
But basically, he's Otto Preminger's grandson. Ernest, I thank you for being here. Why don't the two of you have lunch together this afternoon?
Well, I don't know if you like breadsticks or not.
If you dip them in oil.
90 proof motor oil.
90 proof motor oil and breadstick. Okay, Clay 2, this has been a unique experience for us. I wonder if you can just kind of wave goodbye to everybody and say goodbye to them in French and tell them to have a nice weekend.
Au revoir, mes amis. Passez une bonne fin de semaine.
That's it. We'll see you right after this. We're going to be back with